I think it's working.
Yes, I see a notification.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for your patience, everyone. I see we still have people joining. Welcome. Hi, Ashley. Hi, everyone. So just some quick context. I'll probably be toggling back and forth from our community page on Facebook and here. So if you see me like going back and forth, that's probably why, because I'll be just checking to see what questions and comments there are. But I'm so excited to be leading this call here with Ashley. Ashley's a really good friend of mine, and I'll get into introducing her, all of the amazing work that she's doing, why we're talking about money in the first place. But if you are watching live, give me a like or give us a love. I love the hearts, especially if you're on Facebook Live, and share too in the comments where you're calling from, where you're watching from. We really like to keep these conversations as interactive as possible. So let us know. For anyone here who's new to Work Bigger and you haven't participated in these calls before, I'm Belma. I'm the CEO and founder of Work Bigger. Work Bigger is a career development platform, and our mission is to redefine work so that work is a vehicle for creativity, impact, and living an awesome life. So ultimately, what we're doing here is helping you do work you love that makes a difference in the world without burning out. And I started this platform because of a personal pain point. I spent all of my 20s feeling super frustrated and disconnected with my work, and I really wanted my work to be more meaningful. I was looking to figure out what my vision for my career was and my mission. It took me quite a long time, and I couldn't find it. So that's why Work Bigger exists. So we do that through a number of ways. First, community. I see some of you here who are joining are from the Work Bigger community. Welcome. And on Facebook Live too, we have an incredible group of women who come together to share struggles and wins and resources. We also have a media platform, workbigger.co, which is where we share content and career resources. And we offer coaching, whether it's one-on-one support or our online courses on finding your mission and finding your strengths and weaknesses. That's another way to help you really figure out what you want to do with your career if you're feeling stuck. So today, again, I want to just stress that we like for these discussions to be super interactive. So definitely let us know where you're calling from. Keep the comments and questions coming throughout the call. I'm going to be checking in the chat box, the Q&A box, the Facebook Live, all of that. And we're also going to be doing a book giveaway, which is something Ashley and I put together last minute. So make sure you stick around for that, because you do have to be on the call to get Ashley's awesome book, which I have, and I'm really, really excited that somebody here will get to win it. So with that, let's jump into the money conversation, because I'm super excited. First, why we're hosting a call around money. Well, I feel like money is such an important topic, especially when it comes to career, right? You almost can't talk about your career goals without bringing money into the conversation, right? So I hear all the time, I have XYZ goals. I want to start my business. I want to make a career change. I want to, transition companies, and thinking about your finances is such a big part of that. Unfortunately, money is often a taboo topic, right? There's a lot of feelings around shame and judgment and fear. And I think that totally is problematic, because unless we talk about it, unless we have these conversations around our finances, we can't find solutions. We really can't learn how to build wealth. And I think there's also a lack of education. Like, we are not taught in schools how to manage our finances. We're kind of left to figure it out on our own. And then by the time we're adults and we're also progressing in our careers and our life, we're like, wait a minute, I'm not as far ahead as I want to be. And I want to make these big life decisions around family or work. And money is a key challenge that I'm dealing with right now. So with that, we have Ashley here. I'm so excited to chat with Ashley. Ashley is the founder of the Fiscal Femme, which is an incredible resource empowering women to better manage their money, become more educated about their money. Ashley, I'll let you speak to that a little bit more. She's also the author of the 30-Day Money Cleanse, which we're going to give away today to one lucky person.
Yes.
And she's a money coach. She's an expert around all things finances. So with that, welcome, Ashley.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I loved your context for the conversation. Thank you for having this conversation. It's so important that we talk about money.
Yeah. So why don't you start by telling us, really, how did you get here? Because I know we interviewed you on the blog this past week. For anyone who didn't read it, we'll make sure to share it with you again. But one of the things that I love about your story is that you have a background in finance. And with that, you're like, I still don't know anything about my own finances. And that's kind of a problem. So talk us through that journey and really what brought you here today to be a money expert.
And I resonated with your story too, because it really was one of my pain points that had me create the Fiscal Femme. And it definitely didn't start out where it is today, for sure. So what happened was, the long story short, I was a finance major in college, never did anything around personal finance. Then I went on to work in investment banking, and again, all around company finances. But you'd think with this finance background, I would know something. And when I was in investment banking, I learned a lot. I met amazing people, but I was working a ton and had very little time for myself, for my lifestyle. My health was suffering. I was eating every meal at my desk. I had to cancel all the time. I couldn't meet people alone one-on-one, because if I had to cancel, then they'd be alone at dinner, or if I had to leave. So I would always meet people at least in threes. So anyway, regardless, and the plan from the beginning was to really learn a lot and then leave. So I moved on to a corporate finance job where the work was very similar, but I now was working like 9 to 6 or 9 to 5, depending on the day. So I had my evenings free, and I just started making up for lost time. I started seeing friends every night, signed up for French classes, did all these workshops, started shopping, did things that I didn't have time to do, and had taken a pay cut. And it was like a moment where I looked at my bank account and saw that I had quit the day after my bonus came through in my banking job, and just had seen it deplete away, and realized my lifestyle was completely unsustainable. And if I wanted to keep living this great life that I was so excited about, leaving and getting to see the sunshine and doing things I wanted to do, I had to figure it out. And I realized I had no idea what I was doing. So basically I have some type A tendencies, and I bought a bunch of books and I read a bunch of articles. And at the time, one of my best friends had a friend who was going through a coaching certification. And we talked about me sharing what I was learning on a blog, which was absolutely terrifying to me. And that usually means I need to do it. So we worked through that, and I just started sharing what I was learning on the Fiscal Femme. And that's kind of where it all began.
It's so funny as I hear you talking, because I feel like I did the same thing in my 20s, especially like after my first job. I was like, sweet, I have money now. So I'm going to go and I'm going to like plan all these dinners. And, now as an entrepreneur, and also just learning more about finances and thinking more long-term. I'm like, damn, like I spend so much money. And I think if I'd had a different mindset around it and maybe more resources around it, it would have been incredibly helpful. I would have been more thoughtful about it. Tell us a little bit about the Fiscal Femme, and really like the story behind that and what you're working on today.
Yeah. So from starting to write about it, and the reason I got excited to write about it was because it was making a huge difference for me. And I was able to do things. And I think a lot of the Fiscal Femme and our mission is not about, often when we think about personal finance, we think, oh, like Ashley's going to make me stay home and eat ramen and do nothing, and that's how I'll save money. But the point is actually to live better and live more meaningfully. And we can do that when we're clear on what's important to us. So it's about living better while also saving more. And very much, so as I started sharing, people reached out for help. Other websites asked me to write for them. And I found that, yes, we're missing education around money, but then once we know, a lot of us are still not doing what we know we should do. And that's where I think coaching is really helpful. So I got certified as a coach, and started seeing people one-on-one and helping them. And then I found that I was saying the same things over and over. And I found money and food are also really similar. And I created the 30-day money cleanse program from my work with clients and my own experience. And you're actually a guest teacher in the course, which is amazing. And so that program went on, it's been around for a few years, and that's turned into the book, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
And I think recently too, like as I've grown this business, I've gotten really passionate about wealth and inequality. And I do believe that when women are wealthy, that we will see closing pay gaps, with more women in management teams, like money invested into our families and communities. And so what keeps me going is really getting women wealthy.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you said, that once we're educated, we're still not doing what we've learned, right? Or what, we've been taught to do around money. Why is that? Why does that gap exist?
Yeah, if you think about it's a lot of our mindset, I would say, and our beliefs around money. And we have something you mentioned, it's not just the missing education. There's so many emotions around it. And I think we can't just address the objective strategies and the numbers. They're really important and they help bring out the emotions and beliefs around it, but we have to dig into what those are if we're going to create lasting change in our habits.
I remember you and I were walking somewhere once. So FYI, everyone, Ashley's also my neighbor.
I know, I was thinking I should have come over for this.
I know, we should have done this in person. Ashley lives literally I could see her apartment from my bedroom, which is really we were walking somewhere once, and I want to say this was over a year ago now. And I said to you, I was like, I'm not really clear on what underlying beliefs I have around money. And I think building that awareness, and I see this in the career space too, understanding deep down what's holding you back, understanding your belief system, understanding the fears around it. We had one community member, and I'm going to jump into some of the questions that Workbearer community members started asking when we shared that we were doing this call. The one member said, she's like, I'm totally terrified. So I think unpacking that can be so challenging, overwhelming. What are a few things that we can do to, one, really understand what our money mindset is? And I'll actually pause there. What can we understand? How can we better understand our mindset or build awareness around our belief system?
Yeah. So there's two things there. Well, there's a million things there, but two main things I would say is, one is what's currently our system and what do we want that to be? And so thinking about one reframe that I see when people have this change in their mindset, when people have a lot of success in their money lives, I see a couple things happening with their mindset. The first is that they are in a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, which is Carol Dweck work is on growth mindset, and it applies to money too. It's about believing that our abilities can grow and change over time rather than being fixed. So if you're someone who's saying, oh, I've always been bad with money, or I'm bad at numbers, I'll never be good at money, that's kind of a fixed mindset. And you can have a growth mindset in other areas of your life and a fixed mindset in your money life. So I've noticed that if someone believes they can change and get better, and it's a money journey for a reason, that that's a really amazing mindset shift. And then the other one, and I saw in a question about the restriction, and we do this with extreme diets too. And restriction doesn't work. That's why budgets don't work. And dieting, when it's in this restrictive mindset, it doesn't work. But when we're doing what we want financially, the whole point of money is to have and experience what we want in life. And that looks different for each and every one of us. And so if I make good money choices, I get to have what I want. So instead of viewing it as this restricting thing, I can't have this, or it's actually a radical act of self-love. And I think reframing how we view interacting with our money to be something that's just so loving and giving to ourselves is a different way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of, regardless, you can think that objectively and get there objectively, but these underlying beliefs can still be there. So I think it's fun to free write on it and ask yourself a couple of questions like, what comes to mind when I hear the word wealth or millionaire or billionaire? Like, what comes up for you? And if, for example, if you have been raised to believe that money is greedy, and then you'll find you'll either have a really hard time earning money or a really hard time keeping money that you earn, because who wants to be greedy? So I think, and with entrepreneurs, it hits us in the face a lot more, because when you have a salary, you don't really have to work against those earning blocks as much. But when you're physically the one earning revenue in your business, it's a great opportunity, but also a challenge.
Mm-hmm. So I love what you shared. I'm really curious for everyone who's watching, and we have a lot of ladies too on Facebook Live. Hi, Lindsay. Hi, Jeanette. Hi, Jamie. What is coming up? And for the ladies who are watching on Zoom too, and the men, what comes to mind for you guys when you hear millionaire, billionaire, wealth? I'm really curious just to poll our members here, because I think that that's such an interesting exercise that can be very telling, right? And can really help you understand, like, do I think money's bad? Am I pushing it away? Do I feel that, money equals greed? I love that. So really curious to hear what's coming up for everyone here. Here, I'm going to see.
And even if you don't have like an easy equation of, oh, if this equals this, like even the image that comes up, is it like an old white man?
Yes.
And like,
somebody wrote that. Catherine
really?
wrote that. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
White man is what I think. So what does that mean? Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like a dream, right? When you're interpreting a dream, it's a lot about how you think about that image. Is he a miserable white man? Or does that mean it's so unattainable because I'm not that? Like, what is our interpretation of that image?
Yes. Catherine saying yes.
Yes.
Exclamation marks. Yeah. This question came up from one of our community members, and she was talking about working with a financial planner, and she's on this tight budget, and she has certain money allocated to gas, I forget, basically like things that she needs to do to survive. And it's where that restriction comes from, right? Mm-hmm. That feeling of like, I feel restricted. What do you do in the case where you don't have a lot of money to work with, right? And you need to maintain your basic needs, but you also want to live from that place of joy. I think, like, I love what you said. Like, you said, have an amazing experience, or have an experience that we want in life. That's really what money should be, a vehicle for that. Mm-hmm. So what do you do when you don't have a lot to work with?
Yeah. So, and one of the big issues with the restrictive budgets like that is, unfortunately, we have the ability to spend things we don't earn now with credit cards. And if we're feeling really restricted, it's kind of like, if I say I can't eat sugar, that's all I think about. And then I go eat a piece of cake, feel guilty, and eat the whole cake, and that the same thing happens with our money. So when we're really tightly wound, not most of us, it doesn't work. So we're not going to be able to stick to those goals. And then kind of like restrictive diets do work for a few people, but there's not a lot of joy in it. So with not a lot of money to work with, I have a couple ideas. One is this concept of Frugal Joys. And Frugal Joys are freer and inexpensive things that make us really happy. And I actually have a list of 100 Frugal Joys in my book. And they're just ideas, because I might think like having coffee on a bench, reading a book is joyful, and you might not, and you might think something else is joyful. So it's important to try them out. But the point of them is that we can have really an unlimited amount of them in our lives. Just the time is the only limitation, and it doesn't cost us more money. So I think really savoring Frugal Joys. And then for things that do cost money, I think around mindset, language is really important, because it's how we're defining our money lives. And so you'll notice I call budgets happiness allocations, because I think that's a much more fitting term. Yeah. And I have Frugal Joys. And so another term I use is fabulously frugal. And it's very much values-based. So like if you say, Ashley, my favorite thing to do is have dinner with my friends. and my maybe her spending plan allows for that once every few months, but she'd like to do it more, or whatever the case may be. Thinking about, and it's fun to include your friends on this. If you have an experience with other people, you can brainstorm together. But what exactly about that dinner with friends do you love? And that there's no right or wrong answer. It could be the hours spent chatting. It could be being in a new place that's like trendy, or trying a new dish, or but what about is that experience is important, and then making sure to honor the important parts, but let go of the not important parts. And then you can be creative in finding ways that you can do that while decreasing the cost.
This resonates with me so much. So again, when I was in my 20s, I feel like before I had kids and before I was running a business, I would go out to dinner like 3 nights a week with my friends. And, now I definitely don't do that. I don't have the time. But what I think really resonates as you're sharing that is, for me, one of the greatest joys that I got from dinner out with friends was the connection. Right? But you don't have to connect over a super expensive dinner. That connection could, you could go take a walk. They could come over, you could host. So what I'm hearing you say is really breaking down that experience and what brings you joy, and really pulling from that.
And I kind of make it better. Like if you, for example, if you decide to go on a walk, now you're also getting exercise. And maybe that's another value to you, is like fitness. Or for me, I love nice wine. And if I drink a glass of wine at home with my friends, I can buy nicer wine because there's not the 4 times markup. So I'm creating a win-win-win. So we're actually making the life better, but spending less.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm going to read a couple of other comments that are coming in. Heather said, I noticed a tightness in my tummy. And I think, Heather, you're referring to the Millionaire Billionaire or wealth question. Jeanette says, when I hear millionaire, billionaire, to me, that means unattainable, and hard work doesn't take you there. Part of my beliefs and fixed mind. Yeah. So
I got chills from those. Yeah.
Because I think it all starts with awareness. I think, and I see this in work rigor when we do career coaching and development. I think like really honing in on that awareness is the biggest challenge, because we don't take time to sit down and process. And I think when our feelings too when we have feelings of anxiety, stress, a lot of us have that fight or flight reaction. So if you're feeling anxiety, you don't want to sit there and process your feelings. You kind of want to get away from it. But the point is, and I think this exercise does that, is to really sit with that discomfort and to start to unpack it. So
and what do you usually do to get away from it? You buy something.
Yeah.
You buy something, or you eat something, or you go on your phone. One thing, so what's really interesting when we started covering these, I call them like our money mantras, because we think mantras are positive, but anything we say to ourselves over and over as a mantra. So if I'm like, that's unattainable, that's unattainable, that's unattainable, then I'm going to take actions that are consistent with it being unattainable. I'm either going to not take action, I'm going to ask someone for help who doesn't really know what they're doing, or I'm going to try myself but not really give it my all, whatever those actions are. And then that reinforces the belief that it's unattainable. And then cycle continues. So like interrupting that site, knowing what the money mantra is that you're saying, and then interrupting it and putting in a powerful one until you believe it, I think is really important.
Yeah. Jeanette says, I love the mantras concept. Yeah. It's reframing, making sure that the thoughts, the things that you're saying to yourself are positive versus self-sabotaging.
Right.
Catherine has a great question. She says, can you speak to hustling to make more money? How can I bust through to try to make more money on the side? This is a real block for me.
Yeah. So, and I'm curious what the block is. If she's aware of what the block is, feel free to add that in. But really, like, I think that's such a great idea. One, you can make your life super fabulously frugal. You can incorporate tons of frugal joys. But if, if you're not earning enough, or you want to be earning more, that's the other side of that equation to make more room. So I would turn to things that you enjoy doing. And it's funny because usually when we're good at something, we don't think it feels too easy to think that we could make money doing it. But you'll notice if you share oh, this is a skill that I have to a friend, they would be like, wow, I wish I had that skill. I would pay for that skill. So to not discount things that seem easy to you, because that might be exactly where your side hustle lies.
Yeah. And Catherine too, she's saying, it sounds like the fear is from, she's trying to start a speaking business and that there's no value in what I have to offer. So that's we're not alone in that. Self-worth is the root, I would say, of a lot of when it comes to imposter syndrome, confidence issues that we face. I think especially for women. Ashley, I'll let you speak to if you have any thoughts on the self-worth. I can talk about it all day. So
yeah, totally. And something that I find really interesting is I call events out when they don't have women speakers. And so I get a lot of responses about it. And one event complained to me that they asked a woman who was so qualified and would have been amazing, and she didn't feel like she was qualified enough to speak. And so they ended up having this very junior man because he felt qualified enough to speak. So a lot of times and definitely something to work through the self-worth. But one thing that I found is whether it's negotiating for myself or charging a rate that is what I'm worth, or charging speaking fee, it is really helpful for me to think about that I'm doing it for women everywhere, because we're all having that experience. And as soon as you start, you would be shocked how much people would be willing to pay you to speak when you think that they wouldn't at all.
Yeah.
You have a lot to say, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, Catherine, thank you, Catherine, so much for your comments. I think that's such an important question. She said, thank you. That's helpful to hear. Yes. The self-worth thing. It's at the heart of everything. I would say too, really working on that first before you even start to plan out a strategy for your finances is key. It'll help you get a lot farther. You'll be able to develop a more powerful strategy in how you want to manage your money, plan your career, build your speaking business, all of that stuff, if you come from a place of self-worth and confidence and grounding. And it takes
have maybe a self-worth buddy, share something, because a lot of times it's so deep that you don't even realize you're doing it. So to share with something, hey, this is what I'm doing. Am I acting like I do an exercise where, because I have a worth it thing for sure. And I say, if I were worth it, what would be the next step that I would take? Mm-hmm. And then kind of approach it for if I had no doubts in my worth in this, what would that look like?
Yeah. You're coming from that place of certainty versus fear.
Mm-hmm.
Leah, thank you for sharing. She said, I associate Millionaire Billionaire with people like Donald Trump, which may speak for itself. And then she said, growing up, I always heard we don't have the money, and that translated into my own values around money.
Totally. And that, it's interesting. It manifests in different ways. If, for example, you were told no a lot for not having the money, then you might, as soon as you do, spend on things because now you can. Or you might take that on and end up being a very or continuing not having enough money, so it could manifest in a lot of different ways. But definitely a really good money memory to dissect and write about.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashley. I'm thinking, because there were a couple questions around debt, so I'm going to ask those, if that's cool.
Sure.
Allison, who wasn't able to join live, she said, we hear so much about how people start their own business and start to generate income, but what are the real realities from doing so? How are you able to feed yourself and put money on the table if you aren't generating income? And that's what you're doing full time. And I love this question because I feel like you can also speak to that as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
So there are a lot of things to consider. Unfortunately, I wish I could just tell you the magic bullet, because a lot of different businesses earn revenue differently. So some don't earn revenue for many years, and some are able to earn revenue earlier, and you can start paying yourself earlier. But when I quit my job, I had this document called Project Freedom, and I started saving like crazy so I could quit my job. So basically I was in this corporate finance job and I was building the Fiscal Femme on the side, and I started socking away cash, and I cut expenses, and I hate using the word cut. So I said, I let go of expenses. I remember I was working with a coach, and I said, we were talking about my expenses, and I said, no, yeah, I don't shop. And she's like, yeah, right. You don't shop. I'm like, no, I actually don't shop because I'm so excited to be, I had this realization, like the less I spent, the longer I could last without earning. And it was this really big freedom moment. And so I really let go of a lot of expenses. I socked away cash. I had this document called Project Freedom where I tracked it all. And so that's how I did it. I did it off of savings, and I was able to earn money. I did a lot of writing at the beginning which was great because I would get paid and it was marketing. So I was able to earn some money in the beginning and through the coaching. But you can do it. You can invest savings. You can take out a loan. You can get investment. You can work full time as you build it, especially as you're proving out that concept to know that you will, to get a better idea of when you can expect to be earning, how much you need to have saved, or even part-time as you're building your business to take that financial pressure off.
Mm-hmm. Tanya asked, what are some of the things that were done or that you did to reduce expenses?
So one thing I talk about a lot is our dream team or our money tribe. And one of the really negative repercussions of not talking about money is that the people who are closest to us don't really know what we're out to accomplish. So they can't support us. And often, like, if your best friend who you wanted to get out of credit card debt, she wouldn't say, get another round of cocktails, or like, that sweater is so cute, YOLO, she would support you because she would know how important it was for you to pay off your debt. But we don't give them that opportunity by not sharing. So at the time, I was dating my husband, and he had I don't want to frame it as bad, but he ate seamless every night. He ordered in food every night. And that we would alternate paying. And so one of the conversations I had was, okay, on your nights, let's keep doing seamless if that's what you want. He wanted the variety, he wanted the convenience. But on my nights, like, we're going to have tuna fish sandwiches and grilled cheese, and I'm going to cook. Like, I'm not a cook, but I don't cook very well.
You're going to cook tuna fish sandwiches.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to eat at home. So luckily he was very open to my weird and frugal dinners. And so I did that. Like I mentioned, stopped shopping and just wore the things that I had.
And I want to do a quick check-in. So as you're sharing that, like something like a tuna fish dinner, right? Which for some may be like, that's not very exciting.
No, and that's the thing. Like, it's about our personal values. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about that. Like, so you were able to match that decision with the joy, right? Because I think that's where you're successful, is getting to that underlying feeling, budgeting, or really creating a financial plan that's in alignment with your values and that allows you to feel good.
Yes. So for me, to be fair, I eat healthy. And so the health of it was important to me versus the taste, more so than a lot of people. But I think I was able to let go of more expenses despite the joy in the moment because I was so connected to my mission of leaving. So I had so much joy in the excitement of planning, and this was so new. And so even if I missed out on joy and expenses, which people don't have to do, but that got me to what I wanted faster. So I do think it's also in steps in the process. Like, at first I gave up my daily latte and took a trip to Spain. Like, that was a very easy switch because for me, travel was so much more exciting than my coffee. And then you kind of see the layers of the onion fall away. And so I wouldn't say go from eating out every night to tuna sandwiches. Mm-hmm. But if you're really connected and really excited, there definitely wasn't. And I got to eat on his nights really nice food, so I lucked out. But there were definitely
allocating your happiness.
Yeah, definitely. And for me at that time, smaller allocations made me happier.
Yeah. Kristen said that she resonated with, the less I spend, the longer I can live without earning. It'll help refocus. Yeah. Yes. Anchoring yourself to that bigger mission. I think why, Ashley, your work resonates with me so much is because it goes really deep, right? It's not giving you like, here, restrict yourself in these ways, you're really asking people to dig deep, to explore their values, to explore what makes them feel good. And that kind of work translates to every area of our lives. That's the work we're not doing. So it's really, really powerful. Let's see what other questions are coming in. And I know we had a couple of others around debt. Catherine said, I love the mission of leaving. I'm going to steal this. I love it. Okay, there was a couple others. We talked about making it work when you're really tight. One more on debt. How does debt play a role? I'm anxious to take on student loan debt for grad school that I need for my career because I'm scared I'll never be able to pay it off. How do people manage debt and start a business? So yeah, debt is a big one. And I feel like it's like a cloud that can hang over your head.
I'm doing a series on debt next week. Ooh. So first of all, debt is not good or bad. Like, we carry so much shame with that. It just means we borrowed money. It's just money we owe because we bought something, right? And so I think a lot of times the emotion around money, if there's a way to let go of some of that, it can make everything a lot clearer. As far as going to, I heard in the the fear of never being able to pay it off. I would look into that. How realistic is that? Given the education that you're getting, what do you expect to earn? How much debt? Like, actually plan it out. I think there's a fear of facing the numbers, but there's so much relief usually in it. I've never seen someone go through their expenses with me and they're like, I wish I didn't do that. It's like, oh, this cloud hanging over my head was so much worse than actually knowing what it is, because now I can do something about it. So if you know, okay, this is about how much debt, I think also not knowing the exact number has us stopped up a lot of times. So what do we think it's going to be? What do you think getting that education you're looking for will cost? What would that mean for your debt payment per month? And given the new role you want to have after getting that education, would that be feasible in your salary or in your earnings?
Yeah. And what stood out to me is the fear of never being able to pay it off. Like, yeah. I want to get to, like, what is that about, right? Like, why do we think that way? Why do we come from that place of fear versus possibility? I know before I left to run Work Bigger full time, finances, working out the finances piece was definitely, it was a big piece of it, but there was also something bigger, like much bigger than the money, that was holding me back. And there was this fear around failure, disappointment, all of that stuff. And that's linked to the financial stuff. So I love that you said that, because again, I always think it's about something deeper. And we tend to go into that fight or flight mode. Oh my God, like the worst case scenario. And it pulls us away from what's really realistic and what's possible for us. Totally. Right.
Yeah. And I think, it also stands out because it's really not realistic. Mm-hmm. A lot of those things that are actually weighing us down, when you look at them, like the chances of them happening. And then so it's kind of actually fun to go down the rabbit hole. Like, what actually would happen if you didn't pay off your student loan? So I think that could be, first of all, that it's really unrealistic given if you actually map out the numbers. And then what would happen if all of those things happened? Like, you would just default on your student loan.
Yeah. And student loans, I feel like too, that's one of the more flexible debt options that we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The other question that's coming up for me, we've talked a lot about money mindset, growth versus fixed, creating a really happiness allocation. So figuring out how to spend in a way that allows you to come from a place of joy and happiness. We've talked about money mantras, things that you're saying to yourself. What are some other foundational concepts that can help people figure out what is happening in their financial situation?
Yes. And I'm going to provide a resource to everyone called it's called a 7-day jumpstart to become a fiscal femme. And it has a step you can take for 7 days, a very manageable step, because I am a big believer in action. And I think another thing that gets overwhelming is there's so much we could do in our financial lives that we end up doing nothing. So if any step, like if it seems too big, break it down to a smaller step and take a step, get that result. And it becomes like in a fun way, like a snowball. Like you start taking more action, you start seeing more results, and that's how it builds. So these steps and some ideas for you. One thing that I see us do, especially as people who are busy in our careers or who are making a transition and have a lot of things going on, is we're just not putting aside time for our finances. And that creates anxiety in itself because things aren't getting done. They're not being dealt with. We don't know what's going on. So I am a big fan of money parties, which are...
I did this with my husband, by the way.
I love it. Yes. Okay, perfect. So you can share how you made it fun. But the point of it is you have it in the calendar. I recommend every 2 weeks so it doesn't get... The more infrequent you have them, the longer they'll take because you have more to go through. So every 2 weeks, have it in the calendar so that you know what's going to happen. Keep a running agenda in there so you know what you're going to tackle. And then try to incorporate things that make it fun, whether it's like having your favorite beverage or putting on music or getting cozy or making it part of date night. And then even set up rewards. We do really well with rewards. It sounds silly, but we can reward ourselves when we do things that we want to do for ourselves.
That's where I feel like I failed at. I didn't set up a reward system, but my husband and I started doing this in the beginning of 2018. And what we use is Expense Tracker. It's like a super easy app. And we basically just started tracking where our money is going every single week. And instead of doing biweekly, we actually did it weekly.
Amazing.
And yeah, we would send each other like our spreadsheet, we would combine it and we would see where our money is going. And really one of the biggest benefit is that we can see where's most of our money going to, and it's just helping us become more conscious.
And when you do that, you can say like, oh, is this aligned with what's important to us?
Yeah, exactly.
Your money should be aligned with your values.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was really helpful, I think. And I'm still doing it. I still use Expense Tracker. But yeah, I should have definitely done the reward thing because after a while, like now at the end of the year, my husband's like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore. And I'm like, come on, our money party is on the calendar every Sunday at 8 p.m. after we put our son down. But it did really help create that habit that I think you're alluding to. And it, like, once you have the habit in place of tracking, you're almost like not even thinking about it.
And most of us have no idea where our money's going. So even though it sounds so simple, knowing where it's going is a huge, huge feat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Expense Tracker for anyone who's looking for an app. Lindsay says, I reformatted my student loans to be on a graduated plan. So the first 3 to 5 years, payments are smaller compared to the 6 to 10 years after. Wanted to read that just because I thought it was super helpful around the debt student loan question. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
That's another point, a great point there. When you are in your program before your loans kick in, you get to choose how to repay them. If you want to do income-based, if you want to do graduated, if you want to just do a straight payment plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else? Does anything else come to mind for you, Ashley, in terms of like what people can do to become more financially healthy?
Yes. So creating the time. I think anywhere you can automate and pay yourself first. I think as entrepreneurs, especially, we do this less frequently because we don't have steady income, but I found it's very few people actually save if it's not set up to be automatic, even as entrepreneurs. So
can we talk about the specifics of that? That's actually a struggle that I have right now, like really thinking about. Actually, I've always had the struggle, like always. The way I've saved traditionally is it'll just basically be like moving a large sum into an account versus doing something consistently. And for me, like when I think about like, what are the roadblocks around that? Sometimes it's just like opening the right account, or can you talk about like the steps that you take?
So there are a lot of ways to do this, but I have, of course, my way that I prefer. I am a big fan of online savings accounts because right now they're earning over 2% interest versus like your brick and mortar savings account with the traditional bank, you get about like 0.1%. So it's over 200 times better, which is a big deal, especially as these numbers grow. The other great part about it is they're separate. So I think one of the issues, and there's a law called Parkinson's law, and it's the idea that things take up as much space as we give them. So when we see what's in our account, our expenses tend to fill it up because we're making choices based on the number that we see, even though it's not really conscious. So I think getting it out of sight, out of mind is really helpful. So in these accounts, what's also fun about them is you can name different buckets. So create accounts with different buckets, and you can have your rainy day fund, your travel fund, your holiday fund, so that every dollar has a job and is earmarked for something, which I think is also helps you stay connected to the greater goal. And then I would say so you have the space for this money, which I think is important. If there's no space, where is it going to go? And then setting up an auto transfer. And most people, I would say the majority of people would say that I don't have any money to set up an auto transfer. Like I'm not, because how we traditionally save is, and it's amazing you were able to transfer over larger sums, because what traditionally happens is we earn money, we pay everybody else, and then we wait to see what's left over for us to save, and there's never money left over.
Yeah.
And then we say, oh, when I earn more, I'll start saving. And then we earn more and we're still not saving. So if you feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck or client income to whatever your income is, just set up a very small auto transfer to get started, whether it's $5 a week, $5 every 2 weeks, some amount, because what you'll find is that you don't miss it and it just figures itself out. And from there, you can increase it. And for entrepreneurs who are worried about, if I'm scared I'm not going to make my bills this month, like what if this transfer trips me up? You can have a threshold. So when your account gets below a certain amount, you can stop this transfer. So you can have a threshold where, okay, this is where I stop all the automation and regroup. But you might be surprised that it actually just works out.
Yeah. Any favorite bank accounts, online savings accounts that you have?
I use Barclays.
Okay.
A lot of my clients use them like Ally.
I use Synchrony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really all that matters is that it's free. They should be free. That you're getting some interest, like 2% right now. And that the user reviews are good, that people actually find it easy to use because you want it. Or if, for example, if you are always on your phone and don't like to do any money stuff on your computer, make sure that they get good reviews on the app. So you really just want it to be user-friendly, most of them, but you can double check. They should all be FDIC insured and free and earn some interest.
Lindsay says, I have a small auto transfer, $36 set up, but use that gentle thought approach that if I need it, it's right there. Yeah. Like less pressure.
Well, yeah. And the money, if it's in these online savings accounts, you can get it in 2 days if you needed it.
Right. Yeah.
But it's better to just not know about it.
Yeah. I would love anyone who's watching either on Facebook Live or on Zoom. What other questions do you guys have? Like, feel free to share with us. What struggles are you working through right now? Let us know. Well, I guess we'll do the book giveaway.
Amazing.
Soon. Do you want to do it soon? Like, what should we do? 5 minutes?
Perfect.
5 minutes? Okay. So 5 more minutes, we're going to do the book giveaway. Lindsay said $36 per week on the auto transfer. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think gentle thinking, and we're also going to make mistakes all the time. So I think the other mistake I see a lot is wanting to do things perfectly. And as soon as we're not perfect, we stop. So if you're doing that transfer and then for some reason you need it, now you're like, oh, I'm a horrible saver. I'm never doing this again. It's more like, oh, what went wrong? What can I learn from? Forgive yourself and move on, because I'm still making tons of mistakes too.
Yeah. Yeah. Any tips around the holidays, since this is the holiday season? And I watched the Facebook Live that you did on holiday spending, and I was in the car with my husband and I was like taking notes. I'm like, this is super helpful. I love it. So anything you can share with us around the holiday season to make it a little less stressful? Yes.
Okay. So first thing is I would put in the calendar right after the holidays to plan for the next holidays. Because it's funny. It's just so funny. And I did this too. That's why I laugh at myself. But they happen every year. but we don't plan for them. Why do they happen every single year? And then every year we're stressed. There are things that come up that we can't plan for, but the holidays are one that we can. So I would map out, and we still have time, which is nice. We have time before we have to spend the money. So it'd be great if we could start planning in January, because then we'd have to transfer over much smaller amounts to get ready. But I would map out what you want to spend this holiday season, and thinking about gifts, if you're hosting, if you have to bring hostess gifts, if you're buying clothes for more parties, or even like transportation if you're going to more parties. Like, what are all the things that are going to make your holidays more expensive? And then actually put dollar amounts to it. So I have 5 gifts to get. I'm going to spend $50 on each gift. So actually mapping it out, and then using that fabulously frugal concept I talked about, where is there any way to make these things on these lists more fabulous and more frugal at the same time? So if you always have a big holiday party, is there a way that you can make it less expensive but more fabulous? And that could be making the theme different this year. That could be having people bring their favorite cocktails that are holiday themed and having a cocktail contest. Whatever the things are, while honoring the important parts to you, and seeing if you can get that number down. And then I would think about how many weeks or how many paychecks you have until you need that money, and breaking up the expense to a holiday fund in your online savings account to get you there.
You know, one thing too that I've been thinking, last holiday season, I have a 3-year-old, and like he got so many toys, and a lot of it like he doesn't even play with. And I started to feel really bad. I was like, it feels like there's some excess, right, around the holidays. And I know for me too, especially traditionally, it's like, okay, well, I have to like buy all these gifts and spend all this money. And this year I'm really taking a step back and thinking about like what's really important to me in 2019, you know, and also not being afraid to say, like, when my family and I talk openly about like, oh, the holidays are coming, like, what do you want for the holiday? And like really just being open and honest about that, and helping, like just having meaningful conversations around like, this is what's most important to me. Like, my son doesn't really need any more toys. Like, he has plenty. Like, let's maybe experiences is what something that I'd really love to give him this year. And I think that stuff too is really important, because for me, just something that bothers me is like waste or excess. And it feels like, oh, money it's being wasted right now. And that's, I don't know, not a good feeling. So,
and it's funny because there can be a lot of anxiety around having those conversations, like, hey, let's do a Secret Santa instead of buying everyone a gift. But I found that, and with my clients, people are often relieved when you say, hey, let's put a limit on this. Or like I gave the example in the Facebook Live of my sister and I, we decided to save money in each other's honor for our gifts. So we just said, all right, ready, set, like save $40. And then we like thought about it, felt grateful. And we're doing it again this year, actually. So
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. So before we wrap up, a few things. One, we'd love to do the book giveaway. I also want to share Ashley's book. I want to share the Fiscal Femme. And then I'll see too if there's anything else. There is an event we're hosting for Work Bigger on December 12th, which is we're starting a very small accountability group, 12 of us. So I'm going to share all of these resources here, both in the Zoom link and also on Facebook Live.
Do you have the 7-day jumpstart link?
I don't have that. So I can email it after. I'm going to make sure that we're going to send all of this out. We'll send it out in the newsletter. Ashley, do you have access to the chat on here?
Yes.
Okay. If you want to pop that in there, go ahead.
Perfect.
And then Heather says, yes, reframing what we give in the holidays and dropping the shame around that. Yeah, I love it. Mm-hmm. I love talking about the shame because I feel like that is at the heart of why we don't talk about this stuff. And I think if we can work through that, then we can start getting to some solutions. So here I'm sharing all of the links too on Facebook Live. Sorry guys, it looks like it came into like one big blob, but I think you can all see the resources. Thank you. Ashley just shared her 7-day jumpstart to become a fiscal femme. I'm going to share that too in our Facebook Live group.
I love the theme of letting go of the shame.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's so much fear around it. There's a lot of judgment, like, oh, I make this much, I don't make this much. And I feel like we need to just drop all of that. Awesome. All right. So should we do the giveaway?
Yes. All right. So I'm going to say a name, and then if they're on, they'll just, I guess, chat us.
Yes. Chat us if you're on. I'll check Facebook Live and I'll check the Zoom. And again, you do have to be on to get the book.
Okay. So the winner of the book is Catherine Lavelle.
Catherine.
If she's on.
You're on. Yay, Catherine. So what should Catherine do? Should she send us her address? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, Catherine. So I will, if you send me your email, I can give you a link to where to get the book, and then I will reimburse you so that you can send it to your right address and put all of that in.
Awesome. Okay.
And I'm going to send you the Barnes & Noble link.
Okay, perfect. So she just shared here. And Catherine, too, I think we have your email because you signed up through Eventbrite. Exciting. Awesome.
Yay. And please let me know what you think when you get it. I'm so excited for it to be out in the world.
Yes. And it comes out on January, right? So Catherine won't get it until January.
Right. You'll get it January. Well, I guess it will ship out January 1st.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. Less than 5 weeks.
Yay. Amazing. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Ashley, for this conversation. I feel like I learned so much, and I always have so much fun doing these calls. So thank you for everything. Thank you for everyone who joined live and contributed to the discussion. I feel like this conversation was so much fun because of all the questions and the comments that you shared and your feedback on Facebook and on Zoom. And I'm just so grateful for the Work Bigger community and for the Fiscal Femme and all the work that you're doing, Ashley. So I'll make sure to email all of this information out to everyone. It'll probably come in next week. And yeah, and then Catherine will make sure to follow up with you on the book.
Thank you. This has been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you all.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.